Welcome back to Live, Laugh, Lore, the podcast where myths, mysteries, and urban legends come to life. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Emily. Welcome back.
Yay! Do I do
I
that every time?
think so. I think I also say welcome back every
I
single
think
time.
I always get,
So
yay!
it's fine. It's a trademark at this point.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I have a cat, so I'm
Hmm,
good. You know,
that's
I'm
nice.
settled in.
I've got a glass of wine. I rarely drink alone, but I figured it's December 29th. I'm gonna do dry January, so I'll just get this probably will be my last drink of 2024. So
There you
why not?
go. Also, time isn't real in the time between Christmas and New Year's.
It's like not real.
It's not real
I
life.
feel so I've been just I'm just gonna talk about video games again, but I've been playing Spiritfarer. It's because that's all I do apparently, is just work and play video games.
Same.
It's not all I do. Actually, it kind of is.
It kind of is right now.
Right now, yeah, that's
That's fine.
sad.
It's fine.
Um, I also host a podcast. If you haven't heard of it, it's called Live, Laugh, Lore.
Oh my God. How interesting. So do I.
Please go listen to it.
That's wild.
I know.
Oh my God. Yeah. To all, I think like 20 listeners at this point that we have.
We have 40 weekly listeners.
What? Oh my
I think it's
God.
like, I think, no, it's very exciting. It's
That's
going up
very
every week,
exciting. Oh
and
my
I
God.
I check it like every day. Let's see.
Wow.
42 average weekly downloads,
That's very cool.
which
Thank you
is really,
guys.
now we
Okay.
have to get 9,958 more to make money,
I mean,
which
that's
is not
nothing.
what this is about.
That's not what this is about. No. If that's what this was about, then we'd be really screwed. Um,
Yeah. Luckily, I do have a job.
so
Anyway,
so what else have you been up to?
Christmas.
Okay.
I mean, we just had Christmas
We did. We did just
and
have Christmas.
'twas great. 'Twas
Twas.
jolly and
Hmm.
jubilant. I got a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, hell yeah.
Abyssal really makes a
Nice.
difference. Really makes a difference.
Nice.
And
That
now
is
I'm just
exciting.
waiting for work to start back. Waiting to ring in the new year.
Ooh. Um, yeah, I will not be doing a New Year's party or anything like that
Yeah,
this year because I just don't want to.
I'm not
So
doing anything.
instead, a friend of mine and I here in Phoenix are going to be getting together and creating vision boards for
Stop it.
2025. I'm very
That's what
excited.
I'm gonna do. That's literally
Oh
what I'm
my
gonna do.
God. No
And
way.
my sister, like, she's in Wilmington, like taking care of her boss's dog, so she's like staying at their house.
Mhm.
And she told me that's what she was going to do with her friend, but now she's doing it by herself. And I was like, that's also what I'm gonna do. So I think that's just,
Is
I
this
think
just what all the
everyone's
girls are
like,
doing right now?
I think everyone's just like, life can't continue on
Yeah.
this way. We have to manifest.
It has to get better.
I have to like something has to happen other than me playing video games. And then yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I do social things, but
I feel like that's what we talk about every single episode is
it is.
how
It's just because when I do like social things, it's not like that exciting, I guess.
it's exciting for us. It's fine. Also, so I went to visit my mom like a couple
Hmm.
days after Christmas, and so that we could have our own kind of Christmas time together. And my mom works for a very popular greeting card company. And I don't know, it's American Greetings. I don't know.
Okay, I figured. I know
Anyways,
this works.
yeah. Yeah, she works part-time for them, although she puts in way more time than part-time, but she goes around to like different stores and organizes and like sets up all of the card
Oh,
displays and like little knickknack displays.
No.
Sounds very simple, right? It is not. She texted me when I was on my way up to see her, and she was like, meet me at Walmart. And because I could really use your help. And I
Yeah.
went there. We spent the next, like, I don't even know how many hours setting up a Valentine's Day card display, like all
Mm-hmm.
across one side of an aisle. Took so long and it was so unorganized the way that they like
Yeah.
package everything. So maybe I won't put the name of the company in here because I'm going to talk shit for a second. If I, if a, if a woman, okay, took 5 minutes and looked at the system, they'd be like, what the fuck is this? What is going on? It
Yeah,
is a
maybe.
man that's in charge of it, and he
Mm.
needs to be fired. But anyways, so
Seems there's no end-to-end communication.
that might be the case.
Mm.
Also, spending too much time in a Walmart really do something to your mind.
I can imagine. Going in
Like
for like 10 minutes makes me like spiral.
I was in there for literally 5 minutes, and I'm
Wait,
not what.
I saw your post when you posted the Cheeto dust bath,
Yeah.
and I almost said something smart like, "Oh my God, you're in a store."
Oh my God, you're outside.
I was like, "Are you good? Like, why are you grocery
No,
shopping?"
I was not grocery shopping. No, I was in a
I see.
Walmart. Yeah, and
Okay.
I was overstimulated.
I
Anyways,
understand.
I was there for like 5 minutes and I was wearing like a sweater and yoga pants, like
Mm,
no badge, no blue vest, nothing. But I was like helping my mom unpack the cards. So I looked like I was doing
yeah.
something important, I guess. I don't know. And some guy comes up, he's like, do you know where the hampers are? I was like, no, I don't. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, bud. I
And then
don't.
like 2 seconds later, another guy was like, do you know where the kitchen stuff is?
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
I don't work. I do not work here. I don't know. This is my first time stepping foot in this Walmart. You have been here more times than I have. I'm sure of it. Go somewhere else. And
Yeah.
a new pet peeve has just been
Oh.
released. So we had like a big portion of the aisle blocked off. So you would
Mm,
think that people would go
mm-mm,
around.
mm-mm. Not at a store.
They did not. Hardly anyone actually
Nope.
went around. They just plowed right through,
Yeah.
like knocked
No.
all of our stuff over.
Girl,
Like,
you ever been to like a Trader Joe's? No, people don't have spatial
uh,
awareness at grocery stores. They lose their minds.
I mean, I
And
made
it was
sure
like
to make eye
Christmas,
contact.
so there was no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I was like staring them down as each one of them just like awkwardly pushed their way through. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I would say out loud, I'm like, you know, there's two ends. You can go around. And they would just stare
Yeah.
at me. And at this point, they're halfway in the middle of it. So they have to keep going. But I'm like, I hope you feel shame
Mine,
for what you've done.
I it happens like at Trader Joe's. If that's like the worst, I think, because it's all the suburban moms who don't
Yeah.
they don't care about
Yeah.
anybody. And they will just park their cart in the middle and just stand
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Susan, just grab
What
the
are we
pasta
doing?
sauce. You got
We
to
don't need
move. There are other people here.
to. You gotta move.
You got
Yeah.
to go.
Anyways.
Yeah, I do. I like grocery shopping. I remembered that I used to do this when I lived in Charlotte. I would put my earbuds in and I would listen to music while I grocery shopped, and it was like my favorite thing. I need to start doing that again.
That's overstimulating.
Oh,
No.
I
I
love
must
it.
be aware at all times if there's somebody near me, around me.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Um, I asked ChatGPT to write a spooky choose your own adventure story because I've seen other people do this and I thought it was fun. Do you want to
Okay.
play?
Okay.
Okay. I literally just did this, so I have not read it. So it could be really stupid, but we're going to try it. So let's play a game.
Your next test.
I'm going to read you through a story and you're going to tell me what you would choose to do. And that will
Okay.
determine your ending. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So the story is titled The Haunted Mansion. You find yourself standing before an old, decrepit mansion at the edge of town. The locals say it's haunted, and no one who enters ever comes out, but you are determined to uncover its secrets. As you step through the creaking gate, the wind howls and the door swings open as if inviting you in. Will you dare to enter? It only gives you one option. Enter the mansion.
I suppose I have to.
You have to enter. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this movie.
I think so too. You step into the mansion and the door slams shut behind you. The air is thick with dust, and the only light comes from the moon shining through the broken windows. You see a grand staircase leading up and a hallway to your left. Where will you go? Do you climb the staircase or do you explore the hallway?
I'm feeling the staircase.
Perfect. Okay.
Seems like it would be pretty.
I mean, I love a good staircase. I really
love
do.
a grand staircase.
Yes. I'm going to milk that moment. All right. You climb the creaky staircase, each step echoing through the empty mansion. At the top, you find a long corridor with several doors. One door at the end of the hall stands slightly ajar with a faint light coming from within. Do you investigate the lit room or do you check the other doors?
I would check the other doors.
Okay. You decide to check the other doors. The first few are locked, but one opens to reveal a bedroom. The room is eerily untouched, as if someone had just left. On the bed, you see a diary. Do you read the diary or do you search the room?
I'll read the diary.
I knew it. Okay. You open the diary and begin to read. It belongs to a young girl who lived in the mansion long ago. Her
Is her name
entries.
Anne Frank?
Anne Frank was in an attic, not a mansion.
She had a diary.
Oh, okay. Many. She was the only young girl to ever have a diary.
I know, but they're stealing stuff from other stories.
Well, of course they are. It's a horror story. That's what they all do. It's AI. They wrote it in 2 seconds. Let's give it some credit. You open the diary and begin to read. It belongs to a young girl who lived in the mansion long ago. Her entries describe strange occurrences and ghostly sightings. The last entry ends abruptly with a warning to leave the mansion. Do you heed the warning or continue exploring?
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Thank you. Okay.
Do it for the plot.
You decide to continue exploring. As you leave the room, you hear faint whispers echoing through the hallway. You follow the sound and find yourself in front of a large, ornate door. The whispers grow louder as you reach for the handle. Do you open the door or look for another way?
Let's open the door.
Let's open the door because we're feeling brave. Okay.
Or stupid.
Or stupid. You open the door and find yourself in a grand ballroom. The room is filled with ghostly figures dancing to eerie music, like the Haunted Mansion. Wait a minute. That's literally what this is. I love that that's where your mind went. My mind went to the Haunted Mansion movie, the Disney one. But I love them both.
Anastasia. And then I get
Okay. At the center of the room, you see a figure that stands out, a woman in a red dress.
Oh.
Do you approach the woman or do you observe her from the distance?
Is she hot?
I would assume so. She's wearing a red dress and she's the center of attention.
Let's chat her up.
Okay. Hey, girl. You approach the woman in the red dress. She turns to you with a sad smile and whispers, "Help me break the curse." Do you agree to help her or do you ask for more information?
I'm going to need a little bit more information.
Agreed.
We're not doing the people-pleasing thing anymore.
We're not. Okay. No is a full sentence. And just because you look hot in your dress does not mean that I have to help you.
The empathy has to stop somewhere.
It does. It does.
Caroline.
You know, we have to learn how to help ourselves. Okay, lady? Anyways, you ask the woman for more information. She explains that the curse was placed by a dark sorcerer who once lived in the mansion. This is so many storylines. The crystal in the hidden chamber holds the power to break the curse. Do you search for the crystal or do you ask for even more details?
I guess search for the crystal because this is getting kind of long.
It's getting kind of long.
And
okay.
I don't know that I really care.
Get me out of this way.
Be like, yep, that's enough for me.
You use the key to open the door. Inside, you find a hidden chamber filled with ancient artifacts and mystical symbols. In the center of the room, you see a pedestal with a glowing crystal. Do you take the crystal or leave it? I think you should take the crystal for what
I'll
it's worth.
take it.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I just went through all that trouble.
You're here. You take the crystal and a surge of energy flows through you. The room begins to shake and the ghostly figures around you start to fade. You realize the crystal holds the power to break the curse. Well, yeah, she already told you that.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Do you use the crystal to break the curse or do you keep it for protection?
I'm gonna lift the I'm gonna lift the curse.
Okay.
I'm like, should I be more selfish?
Am I
I
still
don't know.
people pleasing?
Yeah.
You use the crystal to break the curse. The room fills with a blinding light, and you hear the anguished cries of the spirits being released. The mansion begins to shake, and the ghostly figures around you start to fade. The woman in the red dress smiles at you, her form becoming more solid and human. She thanks you for freeing her and the others from the curse. As the light fades, you find yourself standing outside the mansion, the once decrepit building now restored to its former glory. You have broken the curse and freed the spirits, ensuring the mansion's dark history is finally put to rest. The end.
Caroline Grace and the cursed crystal.
Cute. Okay, so it had a little bit of Haunted Mansion, Anastasia, Beauty and the Beast, Anne Frank. It had a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
We love it. It's pretty impressive for AI, I would say. Okay, shall we get into it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, similar to last week, I am surprising you with the topic today,
I
unless you looked in
know.
our OneNote, then
I didn't, but I wanted
okay.
to so badly.
Well, I think that you'll like it because it touches on a couple of different things. But I'm going to be talking about La Ciguapa, the bloodthirsty
Ooh.
siren of Latin America.
Ooh.
Yes.
How fun is
And
that?
yes, I'm very excited to tell you about it. And I will say, you will probably agree with me at the end. I think that she's just misunderstood. So,
Probably.
yeah,
I'm already there.
I am already on her side. So today we are journeying to the Dominican Republic to uncover the legend of La Ciguapa. That's spelled Ciguapa, if anyone ever wants to look it up. She is a creature of Dominican folklore that is still told at the bedside of many children today. It's so popular that many, especially rural areas of the country, I cannot say that word, still
That is
claim
a
the
hard
tale
word.
as true. Rural,
Rural.
rural, the
Rural.
rural juror.
The rural. Whoa. Rural
Say it
juror.
5 times fast. So she's sometimes referred to as the most well-known legend or creature in the Dominican Republic, and she is often described to be a demonic but
Oh
beautiful
my.
woman with backward-facing feet that hunts in the forests. Meaning
Backward facing feet.
she looks fairly normal. I'll talk about her appearance more in a second, but the telltale sign that you are dealing with a Ciguapa is that her body is facing forward, but her feet are facing backwards. So her toes
Honestly,
point the other way.
if I ever saw that, I wouldn't want to stare and be rude, but
I
I
know.
would be suspicious.
I would be, yeah, I would actually, I'd be very intrigued to see how they walk. I want to know, how do you make that work?
Backwards.
So she is a mythological creature. These beings are commonly described as having a human female form, although there are stories about them being both male and female. And they have typically brown or dark blue skin, backward facing feet, and very long manes of smooth, glossy hair that covers their bodies. It's like hair down to their ankles.
Jealous.
Yes. They're also sometimes described as being like a meter tall. So they're kind of on the shorter side,
Okay.
but the stories vary. So, survivors of encounters with the Ciguapa often describe an eerie stillness in the area, as if birds, insects, and land animals had been frightened away. This silence is followed by soft whispers and howls that flow with the gentle breeze and echo through the canopies. The calling draws you in from all around until the creature finally reveals itself. And I want to paint the picture a little bit too of this. If
Mm-hmm.
anyone has been to the Dominican Republic or anywhere in that area, and you've seen what these forests look like. The forests are very like almost swampy, and there's a lot of water, and the trees are really skinny and very close together. And you can see the roots, like the roots kind of
They're
protrude
mangroves.
above. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I'm trying to describe it for anyone who does not know what that is, but
Mhm.
so it's just a lot of like tangled webs, and it's typically there's a lot of areas that are kind of dark and eerie.
Yeah.
Anyways, now that I've painted the picture.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm.
So those survivors, they also commonly describe a fair maiden, large, dark, and enchanting almond-shaped eyes, black hair, very black hair, with a luster that glows in the midnight, quote unquote.
Ooh.
The most revered and terrifying of the Ciguapa storylines describes a demon living in deep caves who lure lonely men with her beauty and sensuality. She ensnares her victims in a hypnotic stare and leads them back to her dwelling, where she consumes them to the bare bones or traps them forever for her carnal pleasures.
Ooh.
It's good for her.
Good for her.
Ciguapas are considered magical beings, beautiful in appearance to some, yet horrendous to others. All sources agree that they are wild creatures, and they are often compared to mermaids, beautiful yet cruel and far from innocent. Deceitful and ready to capture wayward travelers, it is said that when men approach, they'll notice her eyes are completely black as if demonic, but by then it's too late and they've fallen into a trance. So there's multiple versions of the story about what she'll do with these men when she takes them. I've mentioned a couple. Some of them include draining their blood with a single kiss, or keeping their bodies and eating them over a period of weeks. There's a lot of different stories depending on who's telling the story. One of them, which was, I think, also very interesting, knowing what the mangrove forests look like. One of the stories, the Ciguapa lifts men up into the trees, where in this version, she spends most of her time. She kills them there, and then she just returns to the tree whenever she wants a snack, whenever she's hungry.
Kind of like a spider.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was literally thinking of a Black Widow like trope,
Mm-hmm.
But another very common variation to this story is a much more peaceful Ciguapa, one that does not hunt men unless absolutely necessary. And these stories tell of a Ciguapa who is incredibly shy, prefers to eat small animals and fruit, and will sometimes break into homes on the eve of a full moon to steal meals, but does not want to be noticed by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
That version describes a timid creature that quickly disappears if they sense people around.
Mm-hmm.
Typically depicted as a lonely girl that sleeps in the treetops and feeds on whatever's around her, and also has been linked within these storylines as a creature that is said to be a descendant of a race of small people that lived within secluded mountains long before the first indigenous people crossed over into the greater Antilles area. So there's all kinds of different stories about where this creature originated from.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to find one, you have to do that on the eve of a full moon or during a full moon, depending on the legend that you're listening to.
Okay.
And you must do so with a polydactyl dog, which I had to look that up. It is a dog that has 6 toes.
Yeah, I had one.
Oh, he could have helped you find a Ciguapa.
Yeah.
So those are the only types of dogs that can pick up her scent and track her down. It doesn't actually say this anywhere, but I think it has something to do with the fact that her feet are backwards and they have like an extra toe, like something with the feet going on. I don't know. So if a hunter does find the Ciguapa and are able to capture her, her sadness and distress will kill her in 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So all you have to do is just trap her and she'll die on her own.
This like reminds me of one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Do you know which one I'm talking about, where they find the mermaid and they yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Dies.
Yeah, she's compared to mermaids a lot. And I started at the beginning, but she's called a siren of the Dominican Republic. Some sources claim that the legend of the Ciguapa has been passed down since the time of the Taino Indians of the Quisqueya. However, according to sociologist Janetta Candelario, the Ciguapa is not a legend of Taino regions that predates Spanish colonization of the island. Instead, it was Francisco Javier Angulo Juridi's short story that first introduced the character into Dominican folklore. And so, just to rewind a little bit again, the Taino people, they were the pre-Columbian indigenous people. So between 700 and 1500 AD, and they were located in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, that Caribbean area.
Yep.
So what they're saying is that this was never part of Taino history, lore, legends, anything. And the first known instance where this story comes up is in this short story that Francisco had written. So Francisco Javier Angulo Juridi, born in Santo Domingo on December 3rd, 1816, was a poet, novelist, essayist, and playwright. He was educated at the Royal College of San Francisco in Cuba and founded a newspaper called La Prensa in 1836. He published his first collection of poems in 1843, and his first novel, La Fantasma de Higüey, in 1857. And then in 1866, he published several works, but among them was this story, La Ciguapa. So it's heavily translated here, but I'm going to tell you kind of generally what his story was. So in La Ciguapa, Juridi narrates the title character as follows. It is said that since before the discovery of this island, there exists a race whose residence has always been the heart of these mountains, but it is preserved in all its purity, sleeping in the crowns of cedars and feeding on river fish, birds, and fruit. The Ciguapa, which is the name by which it is known, is a creature that only rises a rod in height, though it should not be believed that in its proportions there is the deformity of the so-called dwarfs in Europe and America. Far from it, there is an exact harmony in all her muscles and limbs, a wonderful beauty in her face, and an agility in her movements so full of spontaneity and grace that she leaves the one who sees her absorbed. She has the bronze skin of the true Indian, the black and slanted eyes, the soft, luscious, and abundant hair that rolls down the backs of female to the very calf. The Ciguapa has no other language than the howl and runs like a hare through the mountains, or leaps like a bird through the branches of the trees as soon as it discovers another being other than its own race, because she is extremely shy and harmless at the same time. In general, she is attributed a sensitivity without example, and it is added that having captured it sometimes through open traps in the forest, she has been seen to die within a few hours from the pain, drowned in her own crying, but without exhaling a single complaint, let alone revealing indignation. So again, that's heavily translated, but essentially, he describes this creature as being a peaceful creature. And this is also where the story comes from of if you do capture one of these creatures, they will die of their own despair, essentially. So he then goes on. This is just kind of the description of how he describes the Ciguapa. In the short story, he begins with the narrator who is on their way to Puerto Plata in 1860, taking the Palo Quemado Road and coming across a farmer who warns him of a dangerous being that kills without touching you. Taken aback by such a warning, the narrator questions what this being is, and the farmer, named Jacinto, calls it the Ciguapa. Jacinto shares his story of traveling the land as an orphan until he met a man named Andre, who owned farmland between a mountain and a river. Jacinto offered to work for him in exchange for a place to stay, and Andre gladly accepted. Jacinto quickly formed a bond with Andre's daughter, Marcelina. The two were inseparable for 3 months. One day, while sitting by their favorite tree, Jacinto nervously proclaimed his love for Marcelina, fearing she would not reciprocate. Marcelina, of course, responded by telling him she loved him as well, As they discussed their future, a wave of fear came over Marcelina. Jacinto promised to protect her from any dangers. Suddenly, they were interrupted by two high-pitched screams. One echoed through the mountain and the forest, and the other came from Marcelina, who saw the creature that let out the first scream. Marcelina yelled out, "My God, la Ciguapa," and fainted. Jacinto rushed her back to her father's cabin. Marcelina alternated between deep sleep, delirium, uncontrollable crying, and seizures. In a rare moment of lucidity, Marcelina looked up at Jacinto and said, "We were going to be happy." Dot, dot, dot. 3 days later, Jacinto buried Marcelina under their favorite tree. Jacinto described the Ciguapa as a species that existed long before the island was discovered. Due to their beauty, any who see the Ciguapa are mesmerized. They are extremely shy, yet they desire nothing more than love. Unfortunately, it's this desire for love that causes them to become extremely jealous if they see another couple in love. This jealousy causes the Ciguapa pain that is then shared like a curse onto the person who has seen it. Within a few short days, both the Ciguapa and the person who laid eyes on it will die. So in this short story, a young couple had gone down to the river to fetch water. They were spied by a male Ciguapa. 3 days after the encounter, the girl who witnessed the Ciguapa dies. In this story, the Ciguapa is not some sort of flesh-eating demon that's hypnotizing its victim. It's a very shy creature that gets consumed by jealousy whenever it encounters a person of the opposite sex. And that jealousy creates a connection that later leads to the death of the two connected beings. So
I feel like there are people like that.
yeah.
Actually, I would say that most people are arguably like that.
Just desperate for love.
Desperate for love, can't be happy. Yeah, for a
Yeah.
couple. Yeah.
Yeah. What is it called? Like a twin flame, soul connection, whatever. Some sort of very toxic.
Oh, like a
You
karmic
keep
partner.
coming, yes, you keep coming back to each
Yes,
other.
I know
Karmic
that.
connection. Yeah. So yeah, kind of like that, I guess. So it's a very different telling from what you would initially find if you were to just Google what La Ciguapa is. You would see all of
Right.
these like horror stories. Still with the backward facing feet, though, in the more current modern version.
Mm.
I don't know if you noticed, but in Jaridi's story, backward facing feet was not mentioned.
Yeah.
And he does not describe these creatures to have backwards facing feet at any point in his story. So that is a new evolution, newer evolution within the last 150 years.
I wonder if that's like something that was added to make them sound more terrifying.
I think so. The backward feet, it's an adapted feature, but it has a long history in ghost stories told in other parts of the world. And I think a lot of the Ciguapa story is kind of taking bits and pieces from other stories from around the world, including mermaids, which was a very European and Greek
Yes.
kind of lore story. In Hindu mythology, for example, the Bhoots, which is male, and Shirel, female, are ghosts that can take on human form, but they can only be recognized by their backwards facing feet.
Interesting.
In many other myths throughout the world, ghost-like characters and forest-dwelling creatures have been described with odd features such as backward feet, rotating heads, or other physical anomalies, features that usually reveal the ghost or creature as non-human. It's interesting to note how much the Ciguapa legend and creature have changed over the last 150 years. Many of the traits associated with the Ciguapa today, such as being a savage hunter, demonic, purposely luring men to their death, drinking their blood, and doing all those crazy things, they don't exist in the original legend at all, including you can only see them at the eve of the full moon. Like that did not come from the original legend at all. All of these traits were added over time as the legend of the Ciguapa was retold over several generations. Being a creature that lives in the woods, which can be a dangerous place, the Ciguapa became an amalgamation of different monsters and creatures from various legends that just it was the perfect environment, kind of like the Pine Barrens, where it's already creepy. So it's easy to believe that there's something hunting you with backwards feet.
Yeah. It's just like we were saying, like, I feel like it was like the Ouija when we're talking about like the imagination
Mm-hmm.
will fill in the spots. It's the same
Yes.
thing. Like
Yeah.
your mind will just. And I'm curious, like, I wonder if the backwards feet thing, since it shows up so much, like, if there's any symbolism to it.
I did think that it was interesting the way that the Hindu mythology described it. It was like the only way to tell that this being was not human was by the
Mm-hmm.
feet. Like that was the one thing that,
Yeah.
you have to look out for. So we can spot the influence of the demonic succubus story that is told all over the world, and
Yeah.
even mermaids, which were facing a resurgence in popularity during the late 19th century, right around when this story
Mm.
came out. Despite this, there is still some debate as to the origin of the legend. Did Francisco hear the legend from somewhere else, or was it a complete fabrication on his part? Because there is no evidence of this story showing up anywhere else before he wrote the story, I'm leaning more towards it's a fabrication. But locals, they really do put a lot of weight in this legend lore. The practice of borrowing elements from old tales to implement into new stories is very common in literature. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
AI just did it right before
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
So when we compare the storylines told today with the original, we can conclude that the modern Ciguapa story has adapted many elements from other folk tales, including nymphs, elves, ghosts, witches, succubus, mermaids, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I saw that reference, and then I went down a rabbit hole of what a succubus was. And
Yes.
so, in case anyone else was curious, stories of the succubus, which is a female demon that takes human form and seduces men. So, very similar storyline. Those stories can be found in variations throughout the world. One of my favorite stories, it can be traced back to the second alphabet of Ben Sirach, and that is the story of Lilith, Adam's first wife.
Ah.
I almost pivoted and did this whole story on Lilith, which I might
I I
later.
honestly was like, no, I want to do one on a succubus
Yeah.
or
Okay.
an
If you want to do it, you can. I think it'd be a really cool story.
It would be cool.
Yeah.
Also, the opposite of succubus, there's incubus,
Mm.
which is the male version of the demon who
Um,
they're both like sexual
yeah.
demons.
Deviants.
Yeah, but like I think succubuses they're not funny to me, but the amount of popes, Catholic popes who have claimed to be like terrorized by succubuses, and like there was one I think that fell in love. We were gonna have to do an episode on this, but
Yes.
there was one pope that fell in love with a succubus and like blamed her for all this misfortune in his life. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
it probably was a real woman that
It's
he
probably just a
like,
regular woman that was
yeah.
living life.
It's just like funny in history how many men are like, I'm being terrorized by a succubus, and then it's just like them cheating on,
Yeah.
they're popes, they're not supposed to engage, but they're engaging
But she was a demon. He's
allegedly.
just a man.
He
Goodness.
can't say no.
He got, how could he? My
He's
God.
rude.
Dangerous. Anyways, so anyone who's not aware of the Lilith story, she comes up, I think, mostly in the Jewish faith, and she is supposedly Adam's first wife before Eve. But Lilith, unlike Eve, was created from the earth, just like Adam. And Adam and Lilith were both created from soil, whereas Eve was supposedly created from Adam's rib. So, unlike Adam and Eve, Adam and Lilith were more comparable to modern couples. Lilith viewed herself as an equal to Adam and demanded equal treatment. As a quote from this original story, she said, I will not lie below. And he said, I will not lie beneath you, but only on top. For you are fit only to be in the bottom position, while I am to be in the superior one. Lilith responded, we are equal to each other in as much as we are both created from the earth.
And then she said, peace.
And then she said, fuck you. It actually, so the story ends with her becoming a demon that causes sickness to male infants for 8 days after their birth.
Mm.
And the story eventually evolves into a very vengeful spirit that hunts and kills lonely men. So she becomes a
Right.
succubus from there. And then Eve
Lilith
comes
is like
about and she's, the submissive queen that she is.
Lilith is like my favorite
I love Lilith.
story. I love that. I don't think so. I read a book this year called Lilith. It was my favorite book that I read
Mm-hmm.
this year. Such a good
Yeah.
book. And it's not about Lilith. It's about something like completely different. But that is when I learned who Lilith was. And
Mm-hmm.
like Halsey has a song Lilith, and in her movie she's Lilith, and like anyway,
It's a
I just
very
am very
powerful
into that lore.
story. Yes,
It
it's a very
is.
powerful story, especially when you compare it to the Christian stories that I grew up with and that you grew up
Hmm.
with of Adam and Eve. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of fucked up.
Yeah, because I didn't know that Adam had a wife before Eve. I had no idea.
Hmm.
And it doesn't, yeah.
And
It's
that they were created equal, and he had a problem with that.
interesting.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, I played D&D for the first time this past
Recently?
year. Yeah, yeah,
Wait, did
yeah,
you really? Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah.
join a league.
It was last year, like late last year and like early this year that we
Hmm.
played it, but it was super fun. And my character, her name was Lilith, which is
Oh.
like the Hebrew way to say Lilith.
Hmm.
My name was Lilith Maledictus, and
Love that.
I had horns, and I was like made of fire. I was very hot. It was cool.
Love it.
Anyways, I gave her red hair.
Of course.
I just made her me, essentially. Anyways, it was really fun. So, okay, similar to Lilith, the Ciguapa evolved from being a very timid creature to a very terrifying creature with a startling deformity that hunts and kills lonely men, similar to a succubus. In other cultures, I looked this up on how to pronounce it, and I'm still gonna fuck it up. I'm really sorry. The Sihuanaba, which is a demon that can change
Oh,
forms at will, is a common story that's told throughout Central and South American countries. Like the Ciguapa, the Sihuanaba is also known for its long hair and beauty. And then the lonely men unlucky enough to encounter it are lured following a girl that giggles while only showing her back. When the Sihuanaba finally turns around, she reveals her face to be either a skull or the head of a horse. So very clear resemblance.
the big
Yeah,
shock.
yeah, yeah. Do you still think I'm pretty?
Do
Could
you
you
love
learn
me?
to love me? I'm all Greg.
Could you,
I actually I
could you
found
learn to love me?
one of the paintings that I saw of La Ciguapa looks exactly like old Greg.
I'm all Greg.
It's old Greg. And then when you think about the storyline of Old Greg, which if anyone listening has not seen that clip,
I'm sure. I mean, I don't know a single soul on this earth who hasn't seen Old Greg.
oh, I have met people, but okay, go to YouTube and type in Old Greg. He just wants to be loved. He's
Mhm.
misunderstood. He make an assessment. Do you love me? Could you learn to love me?
I
And he
love me.
drinks a lot of Baileys from a shoe,
Mhm.
and you
Yes.
love him.
I have not
Anyways,
seen this in so long. I need to watch it again.
yeah.
I remember like two things.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently watched it because I was showing it to my siblings, and
Mm.
I was immediately transported to my college dorm room
Oh my gosh, I watched it for the first time when I was like 10 years old.
oh, I was in college.
Mm.
Yeah. Same with like Charlie the Unicorn
Oh my gosh,
and
it's so
like
late.
llamas with hats. Yeah,
That's
I
like
was very
way
late to it.
past like that's like
Okay. All right. You know what?
I always like show that green is not a creative color.
That's the thing that you showed me. Oh my God. Oh my God. I hated that.
I just showed it at like a bachelorette party
I remember
and
you showing it to me. I didn't tell you to turn it off. I was fascinated,
yeah, you didn't
horrified.
mind. But like I've had groups of people yell at me to turn it off because it's so freaky. It like
It is. It is
I can
really.
draw a hat.
So, what
I
is
can
the
draw a
name?
bat.
What is the name of that?
I don't know. I just type
video.
in green is not a creative color.
If you have not heard of any of the videos that we just mentioned, you're going to have a fun day on YouTube. So, anyways, Old Greg is La Ciguapa, essentially.
Hmm. Yeah.
La Sayona is another vengeful spirit of a woman that haunts men who have love affairs outside of their marriages. And another variation of La Sayona is La Llorona, which is a legend prevalent throughout North and South America,
Hmm.
used to scare children who misbehave. The story of La Llorona likely evolved from the Lamia, which is a child-eating demon of Greek mythology. So lots of ties throughout
Yeah.
different cultures.
Lots of very similar versions.
Yes, I think we find that with like all of the stories that we talk about that are, legends and lore tied to a
Hmm.
specific culture, there's usually a very similar one somewhere else.
Yeah.
So these recurring similarities, such as vengeance, striking features, sexual nature, and only appearing when someone is alone, these are common themes found in folklore all over the world. But like many of these folk tales, there is some truth to the most striking themes in La Ciguapa. Um, Juridi's character has many similarities to pygmy peoples of Africa and other regions who are primarily found living close to jungles and wooded areas and whose average height is usually less than 150 centimeters or 4 foot 11 inches. In regards to the backward facing feet, this could be inspired by a common condition named Talipes equinovarus, also known as clubfoot. It's a condition in which a newborn's foot or feet appear to be rotated internally at the ankle. In severe cases, the foot may look as if it is upside down. If left untreated, the feet can eventually flatten out and appear to fully rotate as if the person had been born with backward facing feet. So, inspiration for backward feet could also come from the condition genu recurvatum, a deformity in the knee joint so that the knee bends backwards. In this deformity, excessive extension occurs in the tibiofemoral joint. It's also called knee hyperextension and back knee.
I have that. My knees go bam. Like my
Right?
elbow. Like see how
Yeah.
it
Yeah, the hyperextension.
yeah, my
Yeah.
joints are hypermobile.
Yeah.
I'm not that flexible though.
Yeah. Well,
Disappointing.
I think that's essentially what this is, just like
Hmm.
way more extended. So this breakdown of the origin of this mythical creature, it's not meant to lower the importance of the folktale within Dominican culture. It's definitely, whether it started from, indigenous peoples or not, it has woven its way into the culture of the Dominican Republic. This was more of just to inform all of our listeners out there of the historical connection that this story shares with other areas. So, regardless of your take on the legend of the feral woman with long hair and backward feet, she does remain a very important icon in Dominican culture.
Yeah.
And the story is a pretty far cry from what it originally started as. And with all the changes to its lore, it'd be impossible to pinpoint when and how and by whom each different detail was added. But also, maybe it doesn't matter because the legend of the Ciguapa has been told and continues to be told for over 150 years. And this means that there is a certain love for this legend. And isn't that what the Ciguapa was looking for all along?
Aw,
Yeah,
very nice.
just wants to be loved.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Love.
and I thought it was interesting. I wonder if because stories they start from something. Somebody saw something in the corner of their eye and it
Right.
spooked them. So the story started from somewhere probably and it
Hmm.
grows from there. But maybe somebody saw someone out in the forest one day and they got freaked out.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's funny that the stories I found online, it's all men. They are convinced that they're being hunted in the forest. Like,
I
oh my
know.
goodness. I'm like,
Men
maybe
are
you're
so
just a
afraid
bunch
of
of scaredy
women.
cats. Like, can you please calm down? You
It's
saw a
always like
woman
it's
in the
always a
forest.
woman. who's trying to seduce them. And
Yeah.
like I hate to break it to you all, but like I know you guys think that we're doing that, but in general, like we're just trying to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
Feel
blame
very
women.
interesting.
If you are spooked in the forest,
You're fine.
maybe it's because you're just spooked in the forest. Maybe there's
Yeah,
no deeper
because
meaning
like
to that.
why is the Jersey Devil not trying to seduce everyone? But
Yeah, no, it makes no sense. And I think you guys probably noticed it from listening. Like the details, there are more details about how beautiful she is than
yes,
what she does to these men.
right.
Like
Yeah.
the excruciating detail that I found just on the appearance of these creatures. And then it would like brush over, like, and then she eats it in the tree. But you have a
Also,
whole paragraph talking about how her body is immaculate. Like,
yeah, I also was
okay.
reading, I think it was a book called Yellow Face that I read. And
Oh.
it's about this woman that essentially steals a manuscript from her friend who died, who is Chinese. And
Mm,
in the book that she publishes, she like discusses the almond-shaped eyes a lot, which
yeah.
is like a fetishization of Asian women and like
Yeah.
even Latin American women.
Hmm.
Like that almond-shaped eye is just very like yeah, it's just like
Which I mean, I get it.
overly sexualized.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But like,
Yeah,
do we need to spend most of the story talking
talking
about
about how it looks.
each and every detail of this
Mm,
female form?
yeah,
I want to know more about how she drains all their blood with a single kiss. I would like to know that.
that is some talent.
How the fuck are that's efficiency at its finest.
Yeah.
My goodness. I think if anything, if there's any good to be taken away from it, it's that men should be very careful in the forest. Everyone should be careful in the forest. But also, I do like the fact that these stories do make women sound powerful because we are, and do remind men, hopefully most men, that they should not fuck around and find out. I can't drain people's blood with a single kiss, but I can be mean sometimes.
Sometimes, but then I'll cry.
But then I'll cry.
And you don't want to make me cry because then it won't stop.
And that is a threat.
It is. I will make you deeply uncomfortable
I will make us both cry. Okay.
with the facade.
Guaranteed. Tears or your money back.
Almost tears.
Well, that's my story for the day. I hope you guys liked it. I'd be very interested to know if anybody listening has any folklore stories similar to this one that they know of.
Yeah.
Would love to know.
Also, we had a listener give us some feedback on the elevator game.
Oh,
So I just want to call it out because this is interesting. So this is about Elisa Lamb.
uh-huh.
And while we still don't know why she ended up in the tank, we couldn't come to a consensus about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he mentioned that it was paradoxical undressing due to hypothermia.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I learned about this when I learned about the Donner Party. When you go into hypothermia, right before you die, your brain releases all these chemicals, and
Mm-hmm.
essentially you like hallucinate, and it makes your body feel like you're literally on fire, so you take all of your clothes off.
Oh, that's
So that
interesting.
that was what the theory was, why her clothes were off. But I don't know how she got in the tank.
Or like
Man,
why she got because the tank was open, so she could have gotten
yeah,
herself in there, but there was no trace of her scent anywhere on the roof, which is weird.
no,
Like she just kind of like just appeared in
yeah,
there.
it was really bizarre.
That's
Very
a
strange.
good theory. Yeah.
Yeah,
The feedback that I've heard from that episode was that it was too scary.
really,
Yeah.
that was a good one.
But yeah, thank you for listening,
Thanks.
and we'll be back next week.
BRB. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, don't forget to show us some love and like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you choose.
You can also find us on Instagram at live laugh lore _pod, on TikTok at live laugh lore podcast, and on our YouTube channel, Live, Laugh, Lore.
And if you have any questions, comments, or just want to say hi, feel free to email us at podcast.livelaughLore@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.